Joe Zekas from YoChicago.com, New Homes Magazine. Sitting here with George Thrush. What was your first big new construction project, would you say?
Well, you know, we had, thinking this out a little bit and putting some of my notes down on paper, we had phases. And our first phase was, of course, the small rehabs in Lincoln Park while I was still with IBM, okay? And then when I left IBM...
That was before Lincoln Park was as affluent as it was today. It was beautiful, but it was kind of poor, wasn't it?
Well, let's put it this way. When we did our home, which we rehabbed our home at 351 Belden, which was east of Clark Street, everybody warned us that it was not safe to go west of Clark Street. They said, whatever you do, don't go west of Clark Street. It gets very dangerous. Then after a few years, it became Halsted Street. But then after we did that, then I hired a few people in around 1980, and we got into another activity, which was loft buildings, the rehabbing of lofts. And for the next, I guess it was 6-7 years, where we rehabbed a number of, not a large number, but a number of large loft buildings. 3 of which were downtown on the near west side.
Give me some idea of those. The only loft I remember, or maybe misremember of yours, was right behind your office here on Hudson.
Yeah, well, that was, I think that might have been the first one we did on Hudson and Superior. And all of those buildings, as you probably know, were similar. In other words, the loft buildings all tended to be about the same dimension, the same ceiling heights with the joist, and many of them were 4 or 5 stories high. In fact, most of them probably were. And they were built in around 1890. And in addition to that building, we did a similar building at 216 South Jefferson.
Okay.
We did another building at 217 North Jefferson, which was really the only significant, only financially bad real estate deal we ever had, because we had a single tenant in it, which was Swin Bicycle Company. And they moved in and did a great job, and it looked super, and they had parking. It was perfect. The only problem was they were losing money and went bankrupt. And that was a problem because the building had been designed for a single tenant and for that particular tenant. Then we had one over on Clinton Street.
Clifton.
No, not Clifton.
Oh, Clinton.
Clinton Street.
Down in the West Loop.
168 North Clinton.
Let me back you up to Hudson a little bit, because at the time you did Hudson, that would have been maybe one of the first 8 or 10 loft buildings in all of Chicago that was residential, I think. The lofts were just a brand new phenomenon at that time.
It was not the first. The first one, I'll tell you who, and I can't think of his name, you might recall, but there were several buildings.
It was Bill Levy, as I recall, down on the Mergenthaler building down in the South Loop.
Okay, down on near Wells and in the Larry Booth was involved. He didn't do any himself, but there was another older architect who taught at the University.
It was Harry Weiss.
Well, Harry Weiss was involved.
Harry was one of the pioneers down in Printers Row.
Right, Printers Row.
Harry saved Printers Row down there.
Right. There were several of those buildings that were ahead of us, but I think you might.
And they sold for about $1.50 a square foot.
Yeah.
For people who bought them back then.
Great buildings with heavy timbers. Well, you know, now and then we also did these 3 buildings on Chicago Avenue. One of which we're in now. These were great old buildings, built about the same time, and of loft character. But when we did these buildings, then we got out of that loft thing. Well, there weren't that many left, for one thing.
And then, let's see, some of the other areas you've pioneered, you did some of the first new construction in Woodlawn, probably in 40 years, market rate new construction.
The first new construction, residential construction, in Woodlawn, we did, it was first in 45 years. And we did it, of course, with a partnership with Bishop Arthur Brazier, who's a fantastic guy, who is at least, I don't know if he'll admit it or not, but he's at least 3 years older than I am, which puts him around in his low 80s. And
I think he may be older than that.
he might be older than that, but he's a great guy. I played tennis with him, and he still preaches every Sunday, as far as I know. And I think his son is prepared to sort of back him up. But that was a great experience working with him and all the work we did in Woodlawn, because, as you say, we were the first ones. And if you go down there now and see some of those areas, of course, it's immediately south of the University of Chicago, of the Plaisance. And I'm very proud of it, as I'm sure Bishop Brazier is, of what the transformation of that area and how we helped him. Of course, it was his thinking, his leadership and his idea, but we did go along with it. And
what attracted you to go down there in the first place? I mean, that was a high-risk, gutsy kind of move.
Well, you know, I've always been interested in new areas in the city. I mean, in helping develop the city, and we've worked, tangential or concurrent with this. We've done 9 different developments, or 10, in what they call new homes for Chicago communities.